Welcome to SR Bedtime Stories. If you enjoy peaceful stories that help you relax, unwind, began many hours ago, and has now returned only as soft memories. This morning began like many other mornings, nothing unusual, nothing unexpected. Just another ordinary beginning. Inside the house, the day had already started moving in its own quiet rhythm. A few things needed for the day ahead had already been placed together. At first, everything looked ready, but after standing there for a few moments, a small thought quietly appeared. The clothes planned for today had not been arranged yet, so attention moved toward that first small task. A neatly folded shirt resting nearby was picked up. For a moment, it seemed like the right choice, but then, a different one hanging nearby suddenly felt better suited for the day ahead, so the first one was carefully placed back again, and the second one quietly took its place. A very small decision, yet mornings are often built from decisions just like these. After a little time, another thought appeared. Some clothes used yesterday evening were still resting over a chair. Instead of leaving them there, they were folded properly, and quietly placed. One paper no longer seemed important, so it was folded once, and placed aside. Another document looked useful for later, so it was kept separately on the table, then hidden between those papers. A small handwritten note suddenly appeared. It had been forgotten completely. A small note written several days earlier, a reminder about something simple. Seeing it now, it quietly brought a strange feeling, how quickly small things disappear from memory when days become busy. The note was folded carefully, and placed somewhere safer. A few moments passed, then another thought arrived. The water bottle needed for today had still not been filled. It was picked up, taken to the kitchen, filled carefully, and placed back again near the bag. A small routine, repeated so many times, yet every single day, it quietly becomes part of the journey. Now everything seemed ready once again, but only for a moment, because something else was suddenly remembered. The notebook needed today was nowhere to be seen. The table was checked first. Nothing there. The chair nearby was checked next. Still nothing. Then another quick search began. One shelf, then another shelf, still nowhere. For a few seconds, there was quiet thinking, trying to remember exactly when it had last been used, and then, there it was, half hidden beneath another book resting on the corner of the table. Another small search, finished. Now once again, everything looked ready, but mornings rarely stopped there. Just a few seconds later, the pen needed for today had not been packed. It was resting exactly where it had been used last night, so quietly, it was picked up, and placed safely inside the bag. And then, another small decision appeared. Should the charger be taken today, or left behind, for a few moments? There was uncertainty, then memory slowly returned. The charger had been removed last night and placed near the bedside table. It was picked up, its wire carefully folded, and packed away. The day had barely begun, yet already, so many little tasks had quietly filled the morning. Then suddenly, another missing thing came to mind. The house keys. Usually, they are always kept in the same place, but today, that familiar place was empty, so the search began again. The table was checked carefully. Nothing. The nearby shelf. Nothing. Inside the bag. Still nothing. A few quiet moments passed, trying to remember yesterday evening, and then, the answer appeared. Inside the pocket of yesterday's shirt, exactly where they had been forgotten. Another tiny mystery solved. A little later, breakfast was ready. and for the next few peaceful moments. The first meal of the day was quietly enjoyed, no rushing, no hurry, just a few calm minutes before stepping into the outside world. After finishing, attention returned once again toward preparing to leave. The bag was opened one more time. The water bottle was there, the notebook was there, the pen was there, the charger was there, everything looked perfect. Then suddenly, one final thought appeared. A small receipt from yesterday was still sitting inside the pocket. It no longer needed to be carried around, so it was removed, looked at for a second, folded, and quietly placed away. Sometimes, small useless things stay with us longer than necessary. Now surely. Everything was finally ready, but before leaving, there was one final look around the room. The table, the chair, the shelf, the corner near the bed. Was anything forgotten, anything left behind? Everything looked fine. Then just as it felt time to leave, something else caught attention. The calendar hanging quietly on the wall. For a few seconds, the date was noticed, and suddenly came the thought, another day had arrived so quickly. Days somehow move faster than expected. Without asking permission, without slowing down, one ordinary day quietly replacing another, the thought passed, and attention returned once more. The bag was checked again. For the third time, everything still looked correct, and finally, the door was opened. Stepping outside, a familiar morning scene quietly appeared nearby. At the neighbor's home, someone was arranging flower pots carefully in a straight line. Small green leaves had started appearing on plants that looked tiny only days earlier. We see these things every day, but growth happens so slowly, we almost never notice it. For a brief moment, it felt like the neighbor wanted to say something, perhaps just a simple greeting, but the mind had already moved toward the long day waiting ahead, and without fully noticing, the moment quietly passed. At that time, it felt completely ordinary. But now, looking back at night, it feels like perhaps pausing for just 2 seconds, and greeting them back, would have been a nice beginning to the day. Sometimes, a smile is enough, no long conversation is necessary, and just like that, the morning had already begun filling itself with many small quiet moments. Nothing important, nothing extraordinary, yet life is often built from moments exactly like these. The day had only just begun, and many more moments were still waiting ahead, and now, the memories slowly begin moving toward the second part of the day. And now, the memories slowly begin moving toward the second part of the day. The quiet morning moments at home now remain behind, and the journey slowly begins stepping into the outside world. After leaving home, the street had already begun moving in its own familiar rhythm. Even though the day still felt young, outside life had already started unfolding in many different directions. At the corner of the street, a vegetable cart was being prepared for the day. Fresh tomatoes were being arranged into neat rows. Green chilies were being poured carefully into one small basket. Potatoes were stacked one beside another. Nearby, 2 people stood quietly checking vegetables before choosing what to buy. One person picked up a few tomatoes, turned them slowly in their hand, looked carefully, then gently placed them back again. A simple everyday moment. Yet before the day had even properly begun, the outside world already seemed deeply busy with its own responsibilities. Walking a little farther, outside one house, someone was carefully cleaning the front entrance. Water had been sprinkled across the ground moments earlier. Nearby, a pair of sandals had been placed neatly near the doorway. Outside another house, A few newspapers had been tied together and left near the gate, perhaps waiting to be collected later. Every home, every family, every morning, carries its own quiet routine. A little farther ahead, a small roadside shop had just opened for the day. The owner was arranging biscuit packets carefully on one side. Small bottles of drinking water were being lined up near the front. A delivery box sat unopened near the entrance. The day had clearly started long before most people even noticed. Walking forward, a group of 3 people stood near the road waiting quietly. One person kept looking toward the distance every few seconds. Another person adjusted the bag resting on their shoulder. It looked like they were waiting for transportation to arrive. Morning often begins with waiting, waiting to leave, waiting to arrive, waiting for another ordinary day to begin. After a few more steps, it was time to cross the road. Just then, several vehicles passed one after another, so for the next few moments, there was nothing to do except wait quietly, watching the movement around. After the road became clear, the journey slowly moved forward again. Only a few seconds had passed. But days are quietly filled with pauses exactly like this. Walking a little farther, another small scene appeared nearby. 3 workers stood beside the road. A new construction area had been marked there recently. Several bricks were stacked carefully in one corner. A few bags of cement rested nearby. One worker slowly moved pieces into position. Another was measuring something carefully. Every person begins their day differently. Some build, some create, some travel, some repair, some teach, but somehow, every day begins the same way for everyone. One small task at a time. A little farther ahead, a small child stood quietly holding a school bag. The bag looked almost too large compared to their small hands. For a few moments, the child simply stood there waiting. Then an older person arrived, gently held the child's hand, and together, they disappeared down the road. Watching that small moment, a quiet thought appeared. Every person, no matter where they are, is moving through a journey completely different from everyone else. Walking farther now, a small bakery came into view. The front glass shelves were slowly being filled. Fresh bread packets were being arranged carefully. Someone inside was placing cakes inside the display section. Outside, one customer had already stopped by. The day was quietly becoming busier everywhere. A few more minutes passed. Then finally, the place where most of the day would now unfold had arrived. A few people had already reached there earlier. Some were already preparing for the day ahead. Someone nearby was organizing several papers into separate stacks. Another person sat quietly reviewing details written down earlier. The atmosphere still felt calm, but slowly, the familiar rhythm of responsibility was beginning again. The first task waiting for the day was picked up. It seemed important enough that finishing it early would make the rest of the day feel easier. So complete attention moved toward beginning that work. Several papers were placed in front. A few details needed checking carefully first. The first page was reviewed, then another. Everything seemed normal. Then slowly, the work itself began. For several minutes, there were no interruptions. Only quiet concentration. One detail after another was checked carefully. One number after another was compared. Everything seemed to be moving smoothly. Then suddenly, someone nearby approached carrying a paper. It seemed they simply needed one small detail checked. At that exact moment, the mind was completely focused on finishing the work already sitting in front. So without looking carefully, a quick answer came out. Something simple, perhaps later. The person nodded quietly. and walked away. The work continued. Several more minutes passed. Progress was steady. Everything still seemed under control. Then another person approached. This time, a small question was asked regarding another task waiting nearby. But again, the mind had already decided only one thing mattered: finish this work quickly. So once again, the response came out faster than necessary, a short answer, spoken quickly, and once again, the other person quietly walked away. At that exact moment, nothing felt unusual, because the early hours of the day often push everything toward speed. A little later, the first task was finally completed. The papers were placed aside, and for the first time in several minutes, there was a quiet pause, and during that pause, the two small conversations from earlier quietly returned to memory. Looking back now, it felt like perhaps those answers could have been softer. Neither person had asked for anything difficult, they simply needed a few moments of help, but the mind had chosen speed over patience. Sometimes finishing work matters, but sometimes the speed of our words matters too. Days teach lessons quietly, usually through moments that feel too small to notice immediately. Just then, someone nearby opened a small container brought from home. Inside were a few homemade snacks. First, they offered some to the people sitting nearby, then slowly, others joined in as well. Only a few moments earlier, everything had felt serious and focused, but suddenly, the entire atmosphere felt lighter. Someone smiled and asked for another piece. Someone else asked how it had been prepared. A few quiet laughs appeared. For a brief moment, work no longer felt heavy. Places filled with responsibility always feel easier when small moments like these quietly appear. Time continued moving, without asking permission, and before fully noticing, the morning had already settled into its full rhythm. The day was far from over. Many more tasks were still waiting ahead, more small moments, more unnoticed lessons, and now, the memories slowly begin moving toward the third part of the day. And now, the memories slowly begin moving toward the middle part of the day, without even realizing it. The entire morning had already passed quietly. The first half of the day had disappeared somewhere between small tasks, conversations, and moments that hardly seemed important at the time. The day had now reached that familiar middle point, where movement slows slightly, and people naturally begin taking small pauses between responsibilities. Around the room, the atmosphere had changed a little. The fast rhythm that existed earlier had softened. Someone nearby opened a lunch brought from home. Another person pulled a chair closer and began eating slowly. A few others gathered nearby. Simple conversations began filling the quiet spaces. Someone spoke about a movie watched recently. Another person mentioned visiting a new place during the weekend. Someone else laughed softly while describing a funny thing that happened a few days earlier. For a few moments, there were no responsibilities, no deadlines, no tasks waiting to be completed, only small ordinary conversations. And somehow, the entire day felt lighter because of it. After some time, the short break naturally ended. One by one, everyone slowly returned toward their own work again. The quiet room slowly returned to its familiar rhythm. Several tasks from the morning still needed attention. And now, new tasks had quietly joined them as well. A fresh set of papers was placed in front. This next task required carefully checking several details and writing them down correctly. The first page was reviewed slowly, then another page. Everything seemed simple enough, so the work began. For the next several minutes, there was complete focus. One detail was checked, written down carefully, then another, then another. Everything seemed perfectly smooth, until suddenly something felt slightly wrong. Two numbers written in different places were not matching correctly. At first, it seemed like a very small difference. So the numbers were checked again. Still the same difference remained. The first page was reviewed from the beginning. Nothing looked wrong. Then the second page, still no answer. For several quiet moments, the eyes moved slowly between both papers, searching carefully, and then finally, the reason quietly revealed itself. Earlier, while writing one section, a single number had been missed completely, only one number, a very tiny mistake. Yet enough to make everything feel incorrect. So quietly, the missing number was added, the entire page was reviewed again, and now, everything matched perfectly. A small correction, but it quietly brought a simple thought. Sometimes, trying too hard to finish quickly causes small details to disappear unnoticed. If only a little more attention had been given the first time, there would be no need for a second time. Days often teach lessons like this, very quietly, usually hidden inside ordinary moments. A little later, another task was picked up. This time, several details needed arranging in the correct order. A short list had been prepared earlier, and now each item needed checking one by one. The first few looked correct, the next one looked fine too. Soon, it felt like everything was complete, so naturally, the papers were placed aside, but after a few seconds, a small thought appeared. Perhaps checking one more time would be a good idea, so the list was picked up again. The review began from the beginning, and then, one small missing detail quietly revealed itself. One entire section had been left incomplete, nothing serious, but incomplete nonetheless. So once again, the work had to be reopened, the missing detail was added, and only then, everything was truly finished. At that moment, another quiet lesson appeared. Sometimes, we believe something is complete, but a second look often reveals what the first look missed. Small habits, like checking twice, quietly create better outcomes. The day continued moving, without pause, without announcement. Soon after, someone nearby approached carrying another paper. This time, they had a small question regarding something they were working on. Earlier in the morning, a quick answer might have come automatically, but this time, there was a decision to pause first. For a few moments, the paper was looked at carefully, the question was listened to fully, and only then, a quiet answer was given. It took only a few seconds, nothing complicated, nothing difficult. The person smiled, said thank you quietly, and walked away, and strangely, something immediately felt different. The quick responses given earlier in the morning now returned to memory, but this moment felt softer somehow. No extra time had been lost, only a few seconds had been given, yet the entire interaction felt easier. Sometimes, days quietly offer a second opportunity, a chance to respond differently than before, a chance to choose patience over speed. Nearby, two people had now started another light conversation. One person pulled out a newly purchased pen. They smiled and said it writes much smoother than expected. The person sitting beside them immediately reached out, compared it against another pen resting nearby. For the next minute, a surprisingly serious discussion about pens quietly unfolded. Someone nearby laughed softly listening to them. Ordinary days are often filled with moments exactly like this, tiny conversations, about simple things, that somehow make long hours feel lighter. A little later, another responsibility appeared, this time. Several papers needed to be organized into separate groups. At first, everything seemed simple. One pile here, another pile there, a few papers placed separately. The work moved smoothly, until suddenly, one important paper could no longer be found. The first stack was checked carefully. Not there. The second stack, still missing. The papers nearby were lifted and checked again. Nothing. For several moments. The quiet search continued, trying to remember where it had been placed only minutes earlier, and finally, the missing paper quietly appeared. It had slipped unnoticed inside another notebook nearby. Another tiny interruption, now solved. Days are rarely built from big dramatic moments. Instead, most days are quietly shaped by small forgotten details, tiny interruptions, small corrections, short conversations, simple observations, and unnoticed lessons. Time moved forward again. Outside, the sunlight had slowly begun changing. The bright energy of afternoon was beginning to soften. Evening was quietly approaching. Inside, the final responsibilities for this part of the day were slowly being completed. Everything used so far was being arranged neatly again. The longest working hours of the day had almost passed, yet the day itself was still far from over. There were still more moments waiting ahead, a few final quiet experiences, one last journey back home. And now, the memories slowly begin moving toward the final part of the day. And now, the memories slowly begin moving toward the final part of the day. The responsibilities of the day now slowly remain behind. The long journey that began many hours ago has now quietly reached the edge of night. After stepping away from the place where most of the day was spent, the outside world no longer looked the way it did in the morning. The rush that existed earlier had softened. The fast movement of the afternoon had slowed into something gentler. People everywhere now seemed to be returning toward familiar places, their own long days now slowly coming to an end. Walking forward, the road felt different now. Earlier, everything had felt focused on beginning. But now, everything seemed centered around returning. A little farther ahead, near the roadside, a fruit cart stood quietly under the fading evening light. Several fruits had been arranged carefully into neat rows, bananas on one side, oranges stacked carefully nearby, apples placed in small groups. A few people stood there making simple choices. One person carefully checked several oranges before selecting only two. Another quietly picked up a few bananas and placed them inside a cloth bag. Nearby, a small child stood holding a guava carefully in both hands, turning it slowly while studying it with quiet curiosity. A very ordinary scene, yet after a long day, small scenes like these somehow make the mind feel lighter. The journey continued. A little farther ahead, a bicycle stood resting near a small shop. The owner sat nearby slowly arranging items for tomorrow. Several empty boxes had been stacked beside the wall. A few shelves were being cleaned one by one, preparing quietly for another ordinary day waiting tomorrow. Every day ends. Only so another day can begin again. A little farther ahead, at one corner of the street, several children were deeply lost in play. One child ran quickly toward the opposite side, another followed immediately trying to catch up. Someone else had drawn several lines on the ground preparing another game. Nearby laughter quietly filled the air. At that moment, winning did not seem important, rules did not seem important, only simple joy could be seen. For several moments, the eyes remained there watching quietly. Then once again, the journey moved forward. After walking a little farther, a small tea shop appeared ahead. A few people stood gathered nearby. Someone seemed to be describing something that happened earlier during the day. Another person laughed and immediately began telling another story. Beside them, a kettle sat quietly releasing thin clouds of steam. Several empty cups had already been stacked nearby. Everywhere, every street, every small corner of the world, tiny conversations continue endlessly through every ordinary day. A little farther ahead, the road slowly began looking familiar again. The journey home was nearly complete. There is always something comforting about returning, after spending an entire day moving through responsibilities. Familiar places somehow make the mind feel quieter. As the house slowly came into view, the same flower pot seen earlier in the morning quietly appeared again, but now, something looked slightly different. Beside them, a new small flower pot had been added sometime during the day. Someone nearby stood arranging them carefully into one straight line. Watching that small scene, a quiet memory returned. Earlier this morning, it had felt like the neighbor wanted to say something, perhaps only a simple greeting, but the mind had already been occupied with everything waiting ahead, and without noticing fully, that small moment had quietly passed. At the time, it felt unimportant, but now, looking back at night, it feels like perhaps stopping for just 2 seconds and returning that greeting would have been a gentle beginning to the day. Sometimes, very small moments quietly stay with us longer than expected. A smile, a greeting, a pause. Simple things often carry quiet value. A few moments later, the door opened once again, and after many hours outside, home quietly welcomed the end of the day. The bag carried throughout the day was slowly placed down. The water bottle taken this morning returned back to its familiar place. The notebook used during the day was placed gently on the table. The pen beside it, the charger beside that. Everything slowly returning back where it belonged. Then suddenly, one small piece of paper still sitting inside the pocket was noticed. Not the same receipt from the morning, another tiny paper collected somewhere during the day. It was quietly removed, folded once, and placed aside. For the next few moments, there was nothing left to do. No responsibilities remained. No unfinished tasks waited ahead, and naturally, the entire day slowly began replaying itself inside memory. The shirt first chosen in the morning, then changing that decision, folding yesterday's clothes resting on the chair, opening the bag and removing unnecessary old papers. Finding the forgotten handwritten note hidden between documents, filling the water bottle, searching for the missing notebook beneath another book, packing the pen, looking for the charger beside the bed, searching for the missing house keys, finding them inside yesterday's shirt pocket, quietly eating breakfast. Checking the bag once, then checking it again, removing the old receipt no longer needed, looking briefly at the date hanging on the calendar, stepping outside, seeing the flower pots near the neighbor's home, passing the vegetable cart at the corner of the street, watching someone choose tomatoes carefully, seeing the small roadside shop opening for the day, watching people quietly waiting by the road, pausing before crossing while vehicles passed by, seeing workers arranging bricks near the construction area, watching the child standing quietly with the school bag, seeing the bakery shelves slowly filling for the morning. Arriving at the place where most of the day would unfold, beginning the first important task, giving 2 quick responses while focusing only on finishing quickly, later realizing those words could have been softer, sharing a few simple snacks nearby, watching small laughter quietly fill the room, checking documents carefully, missing one number, searching through papers trying to understand what went wrong, correcting the mistake, checking a list once, thinking everything was complete, checking again, discovering one missing detail, correcting that too, pausing later before answering another question, listening fully this time, giving a softer response, feeling the quiet difference immediately. Watching two people discussing a newly purchased pen, organizing papers into separate groups, searching for the missing paper hidden inside another notebook, watching the sunlight slowly begin changing outside, stepping away as the working hours finally ended, seeing the fruit cart by the roadside, watching the child quietly turning the guava in both hands, passing the small shop owner arranging things for tomorrow. Watching children deeply lost in evening games, passing the tea shop. Filled with simple conversation, returning to familiar roads, seeing the flower pots once again, remembering the missed greeting from the morning, opening the door, placing everything back in its place. Sitting quietly, and now, looking back, the entire day feels incredibly simple, nothing extraordinary happened, no great problems, no dramatic moments, no heavy thoughts, just one ordinary peaceful day, yet every ordinary day carries hundreds of small unnoticed moments, tiny decisions, tiny mistakes, tiny pauses, tiny lessons, small conversations, brief observations, quiet reminders, and somehow, those tiny moments become the invisible pieces that quietly shape our lives. Today taught nothing complicated, only simple things, that patience matters, that small details deserve attention, that speaking gently costs nothing, that pausing for a few seconds can change the feeling of a moment, and that most of life quietly passes through ordinary experiences we hardly notice while living them. And now, the entire day has fully ended, there is nowhere left to go, nothing left unfinished, no responsibilities remain, no thoughts need attention anymore, the mind now feels lighter, much lighter. The memories of the day are slowly becoming distant, one by one, each thought quietly drifting away. There is no need to think about tomorrow, tomorrow will arrive in its own time, but tonight, only rest matters, only peace matters, allow every thought to slowly fade. Allow the mind to become still, allow the body to become heavy, and slowly, very slowly, let yourself drift deeper and deeper into quiet peaceful sleep. Everything is calm now, everything is still, the day is gone, the thoughts are fading, sleep is arriving gently, softly, quietly, peacefully, and now, as this beautiful night carries you toward deeper rest, I will leave you here, until we meet again, with another peaceful journey, another quiet story, another gentle night. Until then, this is your SR, wishing you a peaceful night, and the deepest sleep.